Yeah, I'm fully like Airbnbs. I'm fully invested in the idea of short-term rentals. I think that they are the best. I guess the best way to maximize a single-family investment.
Welcome to your biggest deal podcast with Joseph Williams.
Let's go.
Connecting you with top real estate professionals and entrepreneurs from around the country about the deals, strategies, and motivation that made them successful and will help you reach the next level. This is your biggest deal with Joseph Williams.
So let's welcome Bailey Kramer to the Your Biggest Deal show. It's great having you today, and thank you for taking some time out of your schedule to spread some knowledge on to our listeners. Let's kick it off with kind of about who you are, where you're located, what you got going on, and then I'll lead us into to our stories.
Yeah, absolutely. And Joseph, thanks again for having me on. Super excited to be here. So quick background about me. I'm 21 years old. And I go to school down in Florida at the University of Central Florida. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and now I'm doing my investing just south of Wisconsin in Illinois, right on the border. I've done fix and flips, short-term rentals, long-term rentals. We're working on a few wholesales right now. We have an exciting biggest deal to talk about. That's kind of the quick background on me. I got into real estate reading Rich Dad Poor Dad just a year and a half ago, and nothing's overnight. It took about a year and 2 months from the day I read that book to close my first deal. But it's been a super fun journey, and I'm super excited to jump in. Yeah,
for sure. Well, it sounds like even though it took some time, you've started early, which is good. Yeah. One of the main things people say, when they're in their 40s or 30s and they've been investing for 5 years, they go, damn, I wish I would have started earlier, right? And you've done that, hitting the ground at 21 and kind of you're going in a lot of different directions, probably learning a ton. I'm sure you learned a ton on your first fix and flip. But that kind of leads you into wholesaling and how to generate, motivated seller leads, things like that. And then you can pick and choose which wholesale deals you want to keep as a fix and flip or which you want to wholesale. And I think that's great. That's a perfect way to enter. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now where, I'll flip some stuff here and wholesale some stuff there. And I've got, I want to keep that as a rental over there. And I think all those different aspects can kind of, make you a successful real estate investor for sure. So, so a couple of things. You're going to school in Florida, right? You're investing in Illinois, close to Wisconsin, from Wisconsin. First off, when you're investing, do you have a partner in that area or a family, or how are you managing all that?
Yeah, so I do have a partner. That's been probably, I'd say, the biggest piece to it all. I met the partner. We actually, funny enough, we met through a Facebook group, but then we ended up both joining the same mastermind. We got talking, and we just realized we had different skill sets. He's a little bit older than I am, but has been in the business for a little bit longer. And it was like peak COVID, I guess. And he's like, dude, I can't find any deals. And I don't really have time to find any deals. I have a family, the whole thing. So I said, I have time in my hands. I'm in college. Let's put our heads together, see what we can do. So we first got involved with each other through lead generation and trying to, work at that front. And then after, we just got to know each other more and more, we said, all right, let's do a deal together. And then it kind of transitioned from there.
Yeah. So you're more of lead generation, maybe some marketing, this and that. And I get the sense he's more boots on the ground, local, can make things happen, deal with contractors, daily management of a project, something along those lines.
Pretty much it, yeah.
And that's, you kind of realized that early on. I didn't, to partner with people that are outside of your skill set, right? I partnered with people that were the same as me because we got along and hung out all the time. Right. And then I was like, well, maybe we shouldn't be doing the same exact thing, We need someone to do this, and neither of us want to do that. So find someone that does something else for sure. That's great. So you're investing there. Do you plan on moving back to that area where you're investing after college, or are you plan on staying in Florida like everybody else?
That's a great question. It's something that I have about 9 months to figure it out.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The more that I, am getting deeper and deeper in real estate and buying more property, I realized that I could really do this from anywhere. It's just about systems and processes. So again, I have no idea what I'm going to be doing after college as far as location goes, but you know, I know for a fact that I can do it anywhere. With systems and processes.
Yeah, you're going to move from Central Florida to Fort Lauderdale and party. That's what you're going to do. No, I'm just playing. Well, that's great. Yeah, I mean, I've got rentals. I live in Richmond, Virginia, and I have rentals in Minneapolis, Minnesota, because I once did travel through there. And I'm still deciding. They cash flow well. They've appreciated like crazy. And I'm like, do I sell these and try to 1031 back to Virginia just so they're closer to daddy? Or are they just let them go up there, you know, where they are? It's just like you have different, you know, trials and tribulations where you're at in the country. I find like up there have to deal with all that snow and ice and things like that. Florida, you know, whatever. You got termites and foundations and hurricanes. Yeah. So, you know, and everywhere is different. So it is what it is. You know, you'll figure it out. So, what are you going to college for?
So when I first decided, you know, when I first got into college, I was like, all right, business. I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't know what I want to do. All I know is that I want to start my own company. I want to be the boss, control my time, all that good stuff. So I just picked some random business major, kind of hopped around a little bit. Finally, I was an accounting major. And then I realized after I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, I started looking into the majors a little bit more, realized that there was a real estate program. So that's what I'm currently in now. But I got to say, I would say I'm a full-time investor. Like 99% of my time goes towards investing, and 1% of the time goes to actual schoolwork. So I don't do much of the education in school. I more do it outside of school. Yeah. But real estate, that's a long-winded answer for real estate's my major. Okay,
nice, yeah. Yeah, I learned by doing as well, and you know, I just got a generic business degree, generic MBA, you know, and then I found a passion in real estate. It sounds like you found that early on, and you're kind of diving in. You made some, you know, quick coin, and you're like, oh, this is fun. So, well, that's cool. That's cool. Well, yeah, I'm sure it'll pay off for sure either way. So, obviously, this podcast is called Your Biggest Deal, so it sounds like you've done a lot of stuff out there. Why don't you take us down the road of what you consider your biggest deal, and we can kind of deep dive into that and let us lead that into some more conversation around.
Yeah, absolutely. So my biggest deal, I call it, or we as the investors call it, the Johnsburg Estate. So it is a property right on the chain of lakes. It's northern Illinois, super popular vacation spot for people in Chicago, and it's we call it the estate because it's pretty big. It's on 2.5 acres, eight or nine bedrooms, right on the waterfront. Has its own dock, huge outdoor space. We're actually having we're having a wedding or two there next year.
Nice.
But it could sleep 20 plus people. There was a lot that went into the deal. I know we're going to talk about it, but that's kind of the quick glimpse of the property.
Yeah. So is it on? So the chain of lakes, for people that don't know, is in northern Illinois. Does it wrap into Wisconsin?
Yeah, so the chain of lakes, it's called the chain because there's 15 lakes that are intertwined together. So you kind of have, you know, you're in one lake and you want to go to the next one. There's just a little bridge you go under. So it's super cool. And it goes right up to the border of Wisconsin, but it doesn't actually go into Wisconsin. But attached to the chain, so it's almost like a long oval shaped. North and south runs a river called the Fox River, and I don't know how far that goes, but we've been down a decent way. It goes down pretty south and it goes up pretty north. So it's just a cool body of water that feeds into each other from, you know, different places, and then the chain's kind of like the main hub where people like to go and have fun.
Yeah, and it's in between Chicago and Milwaukee in all reality.
Exactly.
So those are probably your two biggest metro hubs. So, yeah, I mean, you said you've already kind of, you're dabbling into turning your estate into a wedding venue or an event venue. But the main thing is you're doing a short-term rental with it, correct?
Exactly. Yeah, short-term rentals is the main thing. But once we have it posted, people are like, wait, you have a great outdoor space. I live in the area. I want to have an outdoor wedding. There's nowhere on the chain that you could do it on. So we're like, all right, you got it.
So tell us a little bit about maybe a mindset first off of like what you were looking for, right? Because that's not like, oh, I'm looking for a rental property or, this and that. So what you were looking for and then where you found it and how you bought it and how you financed it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the deal finding. So what we do is we do all off-market lead generation. We basically pull lists on PropStream. We do high equity, low equity, free and clear. I'm probably missing a few vacant properties.
Vacant, non-owner occupied, out of state owners. Yeah.
Exactly. Some of those buzzwords that they're very good though, and they're very good.
Oh yeah.
So we use them. We basically put them through a system of texting them on a platform called Launch Control, and then following them up with a phone call. We just call them on the phone. So what we were looking for at the time was properties that were either hit the criteria of vacant, high equity, or whatever. And most of our deals have been between, we did one for $68,000. We did one for $250,000. So that was kind of our range. Pretty low priced. If you're in like New York, you're probably like, is this a shack? No, these are like 3-bedroom houses. It's just the market up here.
So when you said you did a deal with them, like you got those and like wholesaled them or like you fix and flip those?
Yeah, those were the ones that we had as rentals. We flipped them. Those were just kind of the past properties we went through. So then this one came about because it was an expired listing, or it was either expired or on the market for a crazy amount of time. I can't remember which one. But the price of this one was $779,000. So a lot bigger than what we've done.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was pretty scared because the first property I was nervous about. Then I'm like, all right, we went a little bit bigger. You kind of get nervous with anything. I'm sure the next property I do that's $1 million, I'll still be nervous about it. But now I'm looking at the ones that I've done in the past, and I'm like, those are now a walk in the park. So it's definitely a learning experience, and you get more comfortable by just doing it. But kind of the terms of the deal, we bought it for $779,000 using seller financing. So for the listeners who don't know what that means, instead of us going to the bank and saying, hey, can we get a mortgage on this property? The seller, since he owned it free and clear, did not have a mortgage on it. We basically said, hey, do you want to become the bank and you create the mortgage essentially? And he's an entrepreneur. He totally understands what that means, how it works. So he said, yeah, no problem. So the terms we got were, again, purchase price $779,000. We had a 12% down payment, or 12 and a few percentage points. He just wanted $100,000 down in his pocket.
Gotcha.
3% interest rate and a 30-year amortization. Yeah. So those are kind of the terms of the deal, yeah.
And was it a 5-year term or
yep.
What's the term?
It is a 5-year term, which means in 5 years we either have to pay him back, well, we have to pay him back for sure, and we can either do that by refinancing or selling or taking the revenue we're receiving now and paying him more if we really wanted to, but refinancing or selling will be our strategy.
Yeah, for sure. Get him out of this and put it in a 30-year term and keep riding it if it's working. Yeah. Right. So now, did he respond to a text or the actual call? Just curious.
So we text everybody first, and if they respond on text, then we'll give them a call.
Gotcha. Okay.
He responded on text.
Yeah. Yeah, so I know PropStream, it'll show you active on market. A lot of times I'll uncheck active on market if I'm doing certain things, but it'll say failed, right? Like you can look, it'll say failed, and it'll tell you when it was listed and when we took it off and all that. So, so found it, through PropStream, link in show notes for that as well. It's a common tool that a lot of people use. You get a ton of data from it every month, free. In theory, I mean, you're paying whatever is $100 a month, but it's a lot of data. And almost, if you're just starting up, it's going to be too much data for you,
Right.
So sometimes I'm like, okay, I got to calm down with all this data. So that's awesome. Owner finance. He's going to carry it for you. That means there's no banks involved. There's no appraisals. There's no inspections. The benefits to him for anyone new listening is it's easy. There's no banks involved. It doesn't have to appraise. These guys probably said, hey, we're going to walk through it. We might get an inspection, but we're going to buy it as is, close on it. We can close as soon as title comes back on it. So, whatever, 7 to 10, 14 days, whatever, if need be. But for him, looking at a $600,000 mortgage, they got $100,000 down, 3% 6% interest. Like he's earning $20,000 a year just in his pocket. So it's another $100,000 over the next 5 years. And ultimately, at the end of it, he's still going to get the same thing he wanted for it, which was the $700,000. So he's ended up going to make another $100,000 on the property, where it's your responsibility to figure it out. And another thing that you can tee up when you're talking to people with owner financing is that at the end of the day, if Bailey here disappears, he forecloses on the property, takes it back, and he has his house back, and he gets to keep their $100,000. So it's a very good deal for someone. Their house is paid off, and they don't need a huge chunk of money all at once. It also saves them on the tax benefits of not having to get a tax bill for $750,000 if it wasn't their primary residence. And odds are, if it's vacant, and it's been sitting for a while, they're living somewhere else, it wasn't their primary residence. So I've actually bought 2 or 3 owner finance deals. One I found right on the MLS as well, where it was an old guy, was paid off, he had other houses, and I just presented it to him, and he said, okay. So it's a great job there, especially kind of being newer in the game. So it's an estate on the water, we're Airbnb-ing. Now we might be getting into weddings. Was there any renovation involved, or was it kind of like turnkey, walk in, or what?
No, so there were renovations involved, and that's one of the biggest things with seller financing is, or at least with this situation and kind of others we've dealt with, is these people own, a lot of times they're older. They have these properties. This one was vacant. Other ones that we bought seller finance are vacant, and they might be vacant for a couple of years. They don't use it anymore. The condition's not great, and that's why I sat on the market too long. It wasn't in great condition, and he wanted too much money. Yeah. So the condition of this one, we put in $80,000 in the rehab, and that includes furniture costs, which we went on, I guess, the frugal end of finding great deals on Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that. But the rehab, so we had a brand new roof put on it. Oof. Which was $30,000. Yeah. Because it's a lot of square footage there.
It's an estate.
It's an estate, exactly. We repaved the driveway because the driveway was shot, and it actually had a tennis court on the driveway. It was a nice big driveway, but it wasn't really practical to have the tennis court because if someone were to play, they would just hit the houses no matter what happened. So we're like, we're going to repave it anyways. Let's just stripe it up a basketball court. And now we did that, and it looks super cool, and the houses aren't going to get hit. We redid all the bathrooms. Like I said, we furnished the place. We added a pier. We did a lot of those little things. We painted the entire inside. Yeah. So there you go, $80,000 later.
Yeah. I mean, with knocking 30 off the 80, you're left with 50. I mean, you got some big ticket items in there. Piers aren't cheap. Driveways aren't cheap. I'm assuming it's a good sized driveway. The roof, I mean, if it's got 8 bedrooms or so, you say, I'm sure paint wasn't cheap. I mean, 80 sounds like a lot, but it sounds like it actually went kind of far because I know I've put 80 in a rancher almost before. It's like a couple 1,000 square feet. So it's
we definitely spread the budget, and a lot of it too was we had to put in a lot of sweat equity. So a lot of the bathrooms, me and my partner, we did them ourselves, which is not always fun, but this was our first biggest deal, and we wanted to make sure that we had investors on the deal as well, which we can talk about. But we wanted to ensure that we stick within our budget. Everything went smoothly, so we wanted to, especially on the first one, getting it going, we wanted to make sure that everything was perfect. Because we had a lot at stake.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of money in down payment there right off the bat, and obviously you have a looming mortgage payment every month that needs to be paid. So a lot at stake. But that is advice that I always give, especially when you're starting out, is go get a paintbrush. I mean, this one's a little big, right? It would take you forever. You got to hire a crew. This one. Yeah. But I mean, like I had a triplex, right? Like my first deal was, or my first house hack was a triplex. My first flip, I painted it. I moved in my triplex. I moved into one unit, painted it, cleaned it up. When the people moved upstairs, I moved up there. I painted it. Just gave it like a little bit of a facelift. But I mean, I guess you can not get dirty, but some of the easy things like bathrooms and things like that, like if you don't want to learn how to plumb, which is not the hardest thing in the world now with PEX and all that, but hire your plumber. But then most bathrooms aren't that big. Lay your own LVP floors, or paint the place. Get a vanity, set it in there. Get a plumber to plumb it if you don't want to put a P-trap in. But it teaches you a lot about how much effort is in those certain things. And then if you're in a bind and you are going over budget, like you can bite the bullet and like you and your partner can go in and like make some things happen if you need to. Right. And obviously as you scale and you have more money in the bank account and you don't feel like doing it anymore, that's a decision you can make. But early on, like get your hands dirty, right? Just go learn a little bit.
I'm very not handy, but just... my partner is, though. That's his expertise. He's the construction guy. So I've already learned so many little things that I don't even like doing them, but I'm just glad I know them. And also I can spot them, too, now that when I'm going to look at properties or even for pictures. Like we did the installation on one of our houses, one of the properties, which the first time I did it, inspector came and said, this looks like this is awful. You got to redo it, which is fine because he told me how to redo it. I wasted a day of my life, but now I know exactly what it should look like. I did it properly. He came out the next day and said it was good to go. So definitely good learning experiences. And if you have the time on your hands, it's definitely a good way to go is just get your hands dirty. Yeah.
And if you're planning on flipping, it helps you, even talk intelligently to contractors, about what you want, what you need, things like that. And the more, you sound like you know what you're talking about, the less they're going to try to take advantage of you. Right. So, okay. So you got this house, owner finance. We've rehabbed it. We're 180 grand in right now. So what's the plan? Take pictures and put it on Airbnb or what?
Yeah. So literally we were like, okay, we have so much to do on this rehab. There were so many little things here and there. We're like, all right, when are we going to put it on Airbnb or in VRBO? So we're like, let's just pick a date that's, far enough out where we know we can get it done, but also will keep us accountable because we're going to get bookings pretty fast. So we were like, all right, let's do July 1st because we want that 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, we don't want to miss the whole summer.
Yeah, and I don't remember the exact date we actually bought it and started renovating. I want to say May, sometime in May. But we did not have any time at all, basically, to do it. I was there the morning that the guests were actually checking in to finish just little things. It was wild.
Yeah.
But yeah, the plan was, all right, let's Airbnb this thing, short-term rental. We know that the summer is going to be the great season. Winter is going to be the decent season, not very good. There are some attractions nearby, but we said, all right, summer is going to be our time. This is where we're going to make our money. Yeah. So we put it on Airbnb. We took literally pictures with our phone because, like I said, we were literally working at it until the day that they were coming. So we actually we haven't had any free days to actually get a photographer in yet, which has been great. So we finally have found a free day in the bookings. We said, all right, let's just block it off. Let's get a professional photographer in there and get pictures taken. So we definitely got this one up and running pretty quickly.
So for the summer, what is your average nightly rate?
Yeah, so we charge So we projected our rents, our nightly rate to be $1,000 a night. And the way we were able to come up with that, we looked at comps in the area. We also kind of thought logically, okay, we could fit 20 people here. We're providing this much value. Where else could you get this in the area and at what price? So we said $1,000 is conservative because we knew our neighbor had a lot smaller of a house, but they're renting for $1,299 a night. So we're like, let's just say $1,000 a night and see how the numbers look because why not? So we did that. Numbers were looking good, and we rented the first 2 bookings we had. We kept it at $1,000. I'm like, all right, we kind of know we're underpricing ourselves, but we just want to get reviews and people in.
Yeah.
So we're like, all right, what do we think we can get at that? So we did $1,399. We kept booking like crazy. We kept it at $1,399 for now, and that's kind of been our price for the summer. For the winter months, we're gonna probably be at $699, $799 a night, and next summer, with kind of what we've seen from this summer already, feedback from guests, we're gonna be raising our price to probably $14.99 a night, and just adding a ton of value to make it more than worth it. Because obviously that's a big chunk of change, but again, it can fit 20 people, and you
So you
are
get
having.
It's like family reunions mainly, things like that, like bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, like just massive groups of people.
Those are actually our next 2 bookings. We have someone checking in today. They are doing a family reunion. And then next week we have people checking in. They're doing a big bachelor party. Exactly.
Wow. Yeah. So that's awesome. Yeah, $1,500 a night, whatever. You started at $1,000. What's your, to put it in perspective, right? So you're in a colder, climate of the country. So it probably starts in like May, June, July, August, and then September, really. So like 5 months. In the shoulder months there, May and September are probably slowing down a little bit.
Exactly.
June, July, August is really when you're rocking. But $1,000 a night on the low end. What's your mortgage payment a month to Dude Man?
Yeah, so I just want to point out taxes real quick are $27,000 a year, so they're steep. Illinois is not fun for taxes. Yeah, not fun at all. But our principal, interest, taxes, and insurance is right around $6,000 a month.
Okay.
So it's a little bit less, but we'll call it $6,000. So when we were figuring our numbers, we said, okay, for June, July, and August, because those are really like the best summer months. Obviously, you get some May, you get some September, you get a little bit of October, believe it or not. But really, we're like, all right, $1,000 a night for those 3 months of summer. That'll be, let's just call it $90,000, because we knew we were going to have some before, some after. So we said, all right, if we can do $90,000 in the summer, cool. And if we could just break even in the summer, which is because our mortgage payment's really $5,500. So if we said, all right, if we can do $5,500 for the 9 other remaining months, we're going to bring in a total of about $130,000 for the year. Now with our new projections at $1,399 a night, what we've been doing, we're going to bring in that same $130,000 just in the summer. So the winter is really going to be our, kind of a test. We know that we'll at least break even in the winter, which is cool. We talked to some other owners in the area who said we crush it in the winter. Yeah, so our projections could be a lot better. Could be. I don't see them being much worse because we were super conservative on the front end. But we're going to have to kind of see what the winter holds.
So you owe him $66,000 a year roughly in mortgage payments. Right?
Yeah.
$5,500 times 12. And you're saying that you think you're going to make $130 just in the summer next year.
Yeah. And to that payment with taxes and insurance. So Then
you have some you have overhead repairs, cleaning here
absolutely.
And there, extra cutting the grass, some stuff that's obviously not wrapped in there. Now what? So a property like that, like it would scare the heck out of me, right? Like who's going to rent this? So there's resources out there. I was like trying to talk. So literally the same exact deal. Chesapeake Bay, Virginia, old house. $850,000 house, right? It was unique. It was bayfront plus the guy. There was a street in front of the house. Across the street, he owned the land there where you came in out of the bay into like the inlet or the harbor or whatever you want to call it. He owned the lot across the street that had his private boat dock on it. So you come in, park your. He had a shed over there. Walk across the street. He had a pier on the bay side, and it was it had been inherited. I'm like, look, I'll give you this for it. Own the finance and blah blah. Couldn't make it happen, right? But I was trying to. Actually, it's a funny story, but that is almost the same thing. But I use some tools out there. Airbnb for one to like look and see what other people in the area were, how busy they seemed, and then I paid to get access to AirDNA. Did you do any of that when you were kind of looking at this property?
Yeah, so I did do AirDNA, and great software. It's only, you buy the subscription. It's $40 a month. You only really need it for a month if you really.
I just bought my zip code. Really, yeah. I think I don't know if they still do that, but I paid like $25 just for like the zip code, and that was it.
Yeah, they, depending on the area, they have certain deals. But yeah, we threw the extra $25-$40 just to get a better idea. That definitely helped to just gain a little bit more confidence for sure.
Yeah.
And the other thing I didn't mention with the property is we have another revenue stream I didn't even mention, which is boat rentals.
Yeah.
Which is something that's going to be implemented for next year, which is another revenue stream. But yeah, your question with the
so you looked at all that. What were you averaging your occupancy rates at? Like 10 days a month, and then what actually has been happening since like you got it up and running?
Got it. Yeah. So summer, we said summer is going to be. We had a few vacancies in the summer months, but we knew we were going to be 80+% in the summer. Just the days that were going to be empty were going to be the days in between bookings. But after especially talking to different people, our next door neighbor actually does Airbnb with his property. We chatted with him. We also looked at reviews from past Airbnbs for the past summer months and said, okay, there's 4 reviews in October there. There's 5, there's 3 reviews in December. Clearly they're getting bookings in the winter. And so we didn't, I guess we didn't necessarily have a percentage because it's it's very seasonal. We just kind of said, okay, could we bring in 30 grand per month in the summer? And could we do, how could we break even in the winter? So we said, at $699, could we do 10 days? Could we do 30% occupancy in the winter? We said, yeah. I mean, I guess depending on the property, I'm not too gung-ho about occupancy percentage for this exact property. It was more of, could we get someone in there for 10 days? Or even, could we do a month-to-month rental for $4 grand for a property like this? Or furnished, and also there's 2 different units on the property. Could we rent this one for $3 grand and this one for $2 grand? Yeah, we think we can. So we knew that $4,500 was kind of just a safe number for us.
I actually did that when I was moving from Minnesota to Virginia. I was house hunting, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "I don't want to move my stuff twice," so I just put it in a pod, had them store it, and then I found a vacation rental at the lake in the winter months, and rented a furnished house at the lake for 4 months while I house hunted, and they wanted it back in May. It was like perfect timing. It ended up working out. But yeah, I mean, you can get that, and then you just get people that want to maybe go ice skating. I guess it freezes up there and stuff like that.
There's actually a decent amount of things to do. There's a ski hill 15 minutes away. People snowmobile, ice fish.
Gosh. Oh wow!
And also people have family up there. So when family comes to visit, it's sometimes a pain in the butt to have 15 people in a smaller house. It's like you might as well just rent another place nearby.
So, with all of that said, it sounds like it's going great, right? You're no longer scared. You're making your payments. You're paying down the equity. You're paying down the mortgage on the house, building equity. What are your plans now? You mentioned a wedding. Have you looked into the legal logistics? Do you need to get a special use permit or are you just going to kind of wing a couple of them and see how it goes, or what?
Yeah. So with the weddings, that's just something kind of fun we're doing for 1 or 2 of them. It's not like our thing that we're actually going after. The thing that we're really looking for revenue is boat rentals, and I'll kind of talk about that in a second. With the weddings, we talk to our neighbors. The neighbors are all cool with it. It's also a smaller daytime wedding, so it's not some big banger that you're thinking of where crazy type wedding. It's just a small 50-person gathering with a nice tent outside.
Gathering.
So I mean we didn't include wedding rentals in our underwriting. We're not banking on that for anything. It was more just let's just try it out. It's a small enough wedding. It's a daytime wedding too, which is actually a lot better than having a nighttime DJ going crazy and waking up the neighbors. So that's what we're doing with the weddings. Again, it's not going to be our main focus though.
Yeah. I mean, year one, it's like money's coming in. Let's grab it while we can, right?
Right.
So did you just block off? Yeah, did you just block off the days in Airbnb and kind of just rent it out for the?
Yeah. So actually, what we did is kind of interesting. So we said to them, because we kind of both wanted to make sure we're protected, and this is not legal advice or anything like that, but we were trying to be strategical about it. So we said, okay, we want half of the deposit, half of the payment, the total, up front. So we said, to secure the date, put a deposit up front, half of it. And then we said, okay, book the other, and then book the date on Airbnb, and we'll give you a special offer, quote unquote, and we'll just basically cut the half, the price, the amount that you didn't put on the deposit, you'll just put on Airbnb. That way, we're all protected, we think, in the way that if they cancel, we still, we have a cancellation policy on Airbnb. If there's damage done, we're hoping. I mean, we have our own insurance policy on the property, but at least we'll have a little bit extra, hopefully backing with Airbnb. It was more comfortable for them to have it booked through the platform, so it's kind of a win-win through there. Like I said, it's not going to be our main focus, but it's just something fun that we decided, why not?
Yeah, for sure. Because they have like an insurance policy too that they kind of give to host, right? Yeah. So you're up and running, you're doing well, you're increasing your nightly rate, which is great. Whenever you can increase your rental rate, whatever you're doing. How did that change your mindset, or how did that change your life? Like, are you looking to just do more Airbnbs because the cash flow is so good, or you, or what?
Yeah, I'm fully like Airbnbs. I'm fully invested in the idea of short-term rentals. I think that they are the best. I guess the best way to maximize a single-family investment. I have a single family. I have a couple single families that we're renting long-term. It's just, to me, it's not worth cash flow of $100 to $300 a month. Something breaks, there goes your cash flow. This is a business, and with a lot of income potential. And now my mindset's like, all right, Airbnb is what I got to do. If I'm going to be acquiring property, I might as well maximize the use of them. So that's what we're doing more of. We have one we're setting up right now in a town called Lake Geneva in southern Wisconsin. Another popular vacation spot. And that's kind of the focus now is setting up more of these Airbnbs.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah, I've got a handful of flips going on right now, and looking at the numbers. So I've got a beach house I'm renovating that I'm going to Airbnb it and then use it for my beach house. But I've been looking all up and down in the mountains of Virginia, and I want to take some of the profits from these flips I got going right now and roll it into some farm. But like like you said, they're not cheap, because I want like 50 to 100 acres. I want a house on it. I want a barn. Give me a lot of options, and so I'm looking. They're popping up. It's like low end 700, high end. I mean, you go up to the mountain, there's some hidden money up in like the Charlottesville, Albemarle County area. And you got to put a filter on the high end, because like you'll have these like $12 million estates popping up, And I'm like, that's a little, I need to be back down around $1 million maybe max, But I've thought about kind of creating like a tiny house village / running the main house and like doing different experiences out there.
Yeah. Do you follow Rob Built on YouTube?
It's exactly what he's doing, but just up the mountain range. Because the Smoky Mountains is the #1 visited park in national park in the country. And you basically have 3 towns that serve that, between Gatlinburg, Sevierville, and I don't know what the other one is. I can't remember, but it's, if you know Smoky Mountains, you'll know. But just keep coming up the mountains, into Virginia, and Shenandoah National Park's up here, the Appalachian Trail. There's tons of Skyline Drive, all this, and he actually talks about that area. Thing is, we're talking about that money, right? Like in Albemarle County, which is beautiful around Charlottesville, Virginia. Well, you're not Airbnb-ing too much there, because they've already passed bylaws that if you're going to Airbnb, you have to be on the property if you're renting it, and it has to be on your primary residence, same piece of property. So even if you have a cabin on you have to the house there has to be your primary residence, and you have to be sleeping there while you're it's county by county, so there's a lot of stuff you have to look at zoning and planning, and kind of gets deeper in than just getting a house in the neighborhood and renting it when you're talking about building like multiple different rental units 100%. On the property. So I'm trying to figure all that out and come up with some cash to do so. So you kind of dove in with your partner. You're 21, living in Florida. What tips would you give to someone that is thinking about doing this, or kind of looking to model, kind of not necessarily a state, but kind of kick off their first Airbnb? Yeah,
so for Airbnbs, and I say, there's a lot of different ways you can go with it. I mean, for someone just getting started in real estate, I would say the 2 biggest pieces you need to focus on, or the number 1 piece is your network. And then the second piece, I like to always say, just have a baseline education. So real quick, for the baseline education, that's really just listening to podcasts like this, getting the understanding of, okay, you purchase a property for this much money, you rent it out. You kind of just understand it. You don't need to be an expert, because the biggest piece is the networking side. You need to surround yourself with people who are farther ahead than you, whether it's another property ahead of you or, maybe older than you, whatever the case may be, just ahead. They have something that you don't have. And seek them out, whether it's social media, and see how you can add value. I mean, if someone brought you a property that you were interested in buying, a great deal, or someone like me, really anybody, that'd be one example of a great value and something that would open the doors. Other things too is a lot of people are tight on time and cash, finding properties. Adding value is the best way to network and get access to these A players, as I call them. So I guess that's the first step. And just 2 quick tips on how to actually find these people. Number 1, Bigger Pockets. There's, just look up your area on Bigger Pockets. Tons of people will pop up, start hitting the phones, start messaging them, setting up calls, setting up, networking sessions. The other way I like to do it, I did this heavy in the past, was, everyone who's listening right now, they're listening to a podcast. Okay, so they're going to listen to the podcast, they gain some insight, maybe some entertainment, but then they either go on to the next podcast or they just go and do something else. Take 1 minute after every single podcast you listen to, reach out to the guest that was on the podcast, whether it's me or somebody else. Because at the end of most podcasts, or in the show notes, there's some information on how to contact that guest. Mm-hmm. That's like an open invitation to say, hey, this is how I want to be contacted. Contact me. So do that. You do that enough times, you're going to find people. You'll get conversations rolling. By just having those conversations too, that'll help with your education. And then you'll find opportunities. When I was first doing the podcast outreach, I met some people. I started writing blog articles for them. I started researching areas for them, underwriting deals for them. I was just learning. I was networking. You do it enough times, you'll get somewhere.
Yeah, it's it's like every time I ask that question or sometime during the podcast, it comes up networking, whether it's with other investors, with financing partners, with deal or sources of deals, like banks and attorneys. But it just comes up networking in general, not working within your own bubble, within your own vacuum, and getting out and speaking to people. Because in all reality, that abundance mindset of there's enough for everybody out there, because there really is, to a degree. I mean, right now we're probably in the most competitive market when it comes to not only on the retail market but investing as well, with the access to information that's occurred over the last 20 years, and the access to information around real estate investing via podcasts and YouTube and all these different sources. And it's allowed a lot of people, even younger than you, jump in with both feet by networking, even if they don't have the cash. I mean, I don't want to go deep, but like you said, you have investors on this deal, I mean, we could say, how'd you come up with $100,000? It's 9 times out of 10, it's OPM, other people's money, right? Yeah, exactly. And there's people that have money just sitting on the sidelines that, first of all, they think it's cool. I'm an investor in an Airbnb. Plus, they're getting some money off the top versus just leaving it in a checking account, getting point hundredths of a percentage on what's sitting in their savings account. And nowadays, no one's making money just having money sitting in the bank. Inflation is higher than what you're earning on that money sitting there. So getting that money out into the market, and making it make a little bit of interest for you is key. And when you network, you're going to find these people. You're going to find realtors and financing, partners and partners in your business. Where, like you said at the very beginning, they're better at other things you aren't. So it's so key to the whole thing is just getting out and shaking hands and meeting people. So that's great advice, right off the bat. What books or podcasts or other influencers do you follow that when you're kind of new, right? You've done deals, But when I started out, I would literally, when I was painting that triplex I talk of, I would just put on YouTube and listen literally while I'm like painting, like just learning, and you hear the same things over and over, right? But then all of a sudden there's like this nugget that you haven't heard,
Right. Right.
So like what who do you listen to now, and kind of what did you find value in starting out?
Yeah. So number one resource, I have it right in my hand here, Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's just first and foremost, if you haven't read it, read it first. It's a great book. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of it, at least have heard it being mentioned. If you haven't read it, read it. The best resource that I like to recommend for all new investors is Bigger Pockets. Now, I haven't been on Bigger Pockets in a while because I think a lot of people outgrow it once they get a couple of deals, in my opinion. It's still valuable for a lot of things. I still listen to their podcasts sometimes. But just starting out, this is the best place to be. So it's a website. You can go to biggerpockets.com. They have forums. They have a podcast, which is awesome. They have blog articles. They have calculators. Any resource you need to start, Bigger Pockets, I highly recommend. And then what I kind of did is I consumed all the Bigger Pockets information. All their guests talk about a wide variety of things. It is single-family focused a little bit, but you'll learn about flipping. You'll learn about multifamily, everything. What I did after that was I said, okay, at the time, I said multifamily is what I'm most interested in now. I heard a few guys on the podcast, said this is it. So then I said, okay, what's next? Then I looked up multifamily podcasts. I was listening to the Jake and Ginos, the Rod Cleefs, the Michael Blancs. So I would say when you're first starting out, if you don't know what you're doing or what you want to do, start broad with Bigger Pockets. Then when you want to zoom in a little bit more, do that. And there's tons of great podcasts in different niches. Mine's kind of broad as well. I have a podcast that's kind of broad, like Bigger Pockets, except I think theirs is geared a little bit more. I don't know. They've been crushing it for many years. Let's just say that. And then some other people I follow on social media. Ryan Pineda, he's probably the number one guy that I'm following right now as far as real estate and entrepreneurship goes. One guy that I followed heavy in the beginning was Grant Cardone. But what I want to say and warn everybody, and this isn't just specifically Grant Cardone, there's something called gurus out there. And these are not the people that you want to be following. Even if they have deals, it's like Grant Cardone, for example, because this is something that I had a huge lesson from, and I spent like 6 months because I fell into this trap. So this will save you time. Grant Cardone preaches, go big, 10x, buy a 30 unit or don't buy anything. Buy 30 units or more or don't buy anything at all. You need big. First of all, his first property was 1 unit. It was a single family, so whatever. But what I want to say is, don't just fall into the guru trap. It's super easy to look back and say, oh, I probably should have seen that. But when you're in it and they're talking about how easy it is to buy something, there's no easy. There's no strategy that's easy. None of that stuff. There's no get rich quick. The fastest money you'll get is from wholesaling. But even that's going to take, if you're just starting out, at least a month or two, in my opinion. So long-winded answer, just be careful of the gurus. Ryan Pineda is one that's not a guru that I follow heavily, gives a lot of good information. Who are the other ones? There's a lot of Michael Elefante is a great one for Airbnbs. There's different people you'll find in different niches. I'd say the people that show more about them, like their personality and their family, I like them a little bit more because they're a lot more open than the people who are just like, I just woke up, my pillow's stuffed with $1 million. Like, okay.
dollar bill, bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's funny you said that because on the last podcast, literally, I said the same exact thing. When you're starting out, don't get trapped in this guru funnel, sales funnel, because guru, they are very good marketers. That's what they're doing, right? And they're selling something and once again, like Grant Cardone, he'll pop up because he's a great marketer. But if you follow his day-to-day stuff, he's not providing much value on his Instagram or anything. There's like zero information about how to actively take action. Like you've provided more value today about Airbnb than he will provide. He talks very big macro picture. I own $1 billion worth of real this and that. Whereas Ryan Pineda, people have done those podcasts, Henry Washington, they have courses that you can go buy. Ryan Pineda has a whole education side of it. But on his social media, that's not first and foremost that he's just going to push down your throat. They try to provide some value. And then if you go research them more and find their website, you're going to find courses you can buy or this and that.
Right, of course.
And that's your opinion. But what we talked about in the last episode, don't go day one, drop $5,000 on a guru. Like, put in some legwork. If you need like prop stream, YouTube University. If you need like some software, some data, you got to pull here to try to find some motivated sellers. As you scale, if you want to pay for a mentor or a mastermind where you can be around like-minded people that are at a higher level than you to learn how they've systematized and grown their business, I think that's way more beneficial than trying to pay a guru early on, because a lot of those gurus, $5,000 is an entrance fee, and then it's like, oh, well, if you want to go further, it's right. This and that. It's the Than Merrills or whatever, where they want $25,000 to be on their inner circle, and you haven't even done a deal yet, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, like you said, learn first, and then you can make educated decisions about how you want to invest in your higher level education. For sure. So good advice there.
The one last thing I want to say about it, and big trap I fell into. Don't fall into unit count. It's not about unit count. If someone says they have 1,000 units, it just doesn't mean anything. I fell into the trap. I thought they were making gazillion dollars because they owned 1,000 units. It's not true. I actually just made a TikTok about it, about kind of that thing, and it's starting to blow up now. Just that one post about talking about how, it's not all about unit count. That's just kind of the bottom line.
Or door count, right? Like, I've got 300
exactly.
doors, but you got 300 doors because you syndicated the deal, and you've got 25 investors that you owe dividends to every month, and this and that, and like you said, your insurance on one house is $25,000. Well, go ahead and buy your 100-unit apartment complex in Milwaukee and see how much insurance on that. So, like you said, don't get me wrong, like, you scale with that, but there's a lot of overhead and usually a lot of investors. Like, you say 10x. Well, you can't just go out and buy a $10 million apartment complex, or a $5 million apartment complex. So maybe you get one owner finance. That's the way. A motivated seller owner finance. But there's tons of competition in that space as well. So it's very hard to just find some killer deal that's going to set you up for life, right? Like, it's a slow build for sure. And kind of what we talked about at the beginning, some wholesaling here, some flipping here, an Airbnb or two, some long-term holds that make sense where they're cash flowing well. You kind of build all of those things, and I think it'll pay off in the end. And you can retire when you're 40 if you want, and it'll probably be 70 by the time you get to retirement age. Right. well, perfect. We've covered a ton of information today, Bailey. I think you've provided some great insights and value around short-term rentals, education, taking your first big jump in with the proper knowledge and the proper partners. Where can people find out more about you? I know I found you on Instagram. You're dancing on TikTok, apparently. Why don't you share some of that info with our listeners?
Yeah, Instagram is probably the most central place you can find me. I have a link in my bio, which is like my link tree, a stand with me. That'll link to all my other socials. But so I'm on YouTube, I'm on TikTok, I have a podcast, all that good stuff. If you're on Instagram, easiest way, connect with me there. I think I'm the Bailey Kramer. Connect with me there. Reach out. I love networking with others. So, shoot me a DM. If you're just starting out, you're more experienced, whatever the case is. I love chatting with people. I can do this literally all day long. So definitely reach out.
Yeah, this doesn't work, right?
Exactly.
As long as you got time to make some deals here and there.
Right.
Well, perfect. We'll put all that information in the show notes, link you into his link tree. And once again, thanks so much for taking your time today. We really appreciate the information. It's motivated me to chase my Airbnb dreams and find that next big estate farm up in Virginia. And if you take anything from today, just remember, take action. That's the key. Educate and take action. So we appreciate it, and thanks for joining us, Bailey.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me on.
Thank you for listening to another amazing episode of Your Biggest Deal. Please like, subscribe, and share with friends. And don't forget to tag Your Biggest Deal on Facebook and Instagram. To connect with Joseph Williams or for questions and feedback, visit yourbiggestdeal.com. Thank you for listening and learning. Now, it's time to take action.